Hey everybody, it's Mara from MatterHackers, and I am here all the way from Australia, Maker's Muse, Angus Deveson, here at MatterHackers.
G'day.
How are you doing?
I'm good, how are you going?
You a little punchy from the flight still?
Oh, I'm good now. I have slept for a solid 12 hours. I've recovered.
Fantastic. Well, we're so excited to have you here and to talk about your channel.
Yeah, cheers. It's good to be here.
Good. I'm glad we have actually developed this relationship a little bit over the past year or so, I would say. We've been watching your channel and kind of watching you grow. And by the time this video actually hits, you will be well over 100,000.
It's close. It's scary, actually.
Yeah. What's it like?
I never expected it, honestly. It was a hobby. You know, I like making videos, I like teaching people about 3D printing technologies, and I never saw it as a point of revenue or a point of ability to sustain itself. And it just kind of happened, so now I can do it full time, and now it's become, as you said, just ridiculous. 100,000 people. Yeah. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's been the biggest surprise for you in starting out in this community of 3D printing on YouTube?
I think in terms of the community on YouTube, the amount of camaraderie and friendships I've developed. I never expected to meet other people so interested in the technology to the same level that I was, doing the same sort of thing in different parts of the world. So now because of the channel, I know people in 3D Maker Faire in Malta, and Joel here in America, and just people all around the world that share the same love of the technology. Now I know them really well. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of geeks out there.
Oh, there's tons of geeks out there, which makes me feel really good.
Yeah, it is. It's a home for all of us.
Yeah.
For those of few people out there that have not seen your channel, tell us a little bit about what makes your channel different than other 3D printing YouTube channels.
Yeah, sure. So Maker's Muse has always been aimed as a point of unbiased education in the 3D printing space. So my tagline is to empower creativity with 3D printing processes. So I don't care what you want to do with it, I just want to help you get to that point with clear-cut information. I tend not to skirt around things, I tend to be very straight to the point, and I tend to give people information that they need as quickly as they can. Because look, there's so much out there. And that was my problem initially. I was running a 3D printing studio in Perth, which is where I used to live. And people would come in asking, I've seen this printer, I've seen this one, I don't know what I want, I've got a budget of this much. And on a one-on-one basis, you can't help everyone. Mm-hmm. So I thought video would be a better approach at helping as many people as I could by doing the reviews, by doing, breaking down what's the sort of plastic, how does it perform, how do I do something. And then just by doing that, I can help as many people as I can embrace the technology. Because the last thing I ever want to see is someone to buy a 3D printer and never use it. And I've seen that so many times. I've been at many schools where they've got, like an UP+2, from 5 years ago, just gathering dust in the corner. It still works. It's probably got 200 hours on it max. Mm-hmm. And it's just sitting there because they don't know how to use it. Yeah. Which is awful.
Yeah. No, especially in schools we see that problem.
Yeah.
So you touched on it a little bit. It's really interesting now to see that the conversation isn't so much about how to use a 3D printer, but all the different ways that people are using 3D printers. Exactly. You could pretty much make any hobby or business that you're in better, easier with a 3D printer. Sure. So we see a lot of that, for example, in cosplay and props and costumes. That's kind of the new thing that people are using 3D printers for. What else have you seen? What are some of the trends, people using 3D printers?
So I guess with 3D printing, the props is probably the biggest trend I've seen because it's made it so much easier for someone to become the character that they love. I remember I was carving stuff out of foam and cardboard, and you can do it, but it's difficult. So someone to upload a 3D file of that sword or something in high detail, and you just print it, is hugely empowering. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the biggest trend I would say. But one of the really cool trends I'm starting to see in the medical field is these low-end 3D printers. Of course, they're not safe for contact or implant in the body, obviously, but they're using them for studies before surgeries. And that's really interesting because you can have a hospital that's got very low funding actually attempt really complicated surgeries because they can print a model and see how we would approach it, what they're going to do. It's just cheap PLA plastic, but it's actually able to be used like that. Yeah. So I'm starting to see that a lot more as well.
Yeah. I love those stories of how 3D printers are being used now for real. Because a lot of the stuff that gets posted on my Facebook page and things are these great flashy videos that show 3D printing can be used for some outlandish thing, but like it's not really there yet. Someday it'll probably do that, but the real 3D printing stories are the reason people go to YouTube to get more information.
For sure, and the thing is, those stories look flashy, which is why they're popular, which is kind of why I'll do a video about, I did a mount for my car to hold Red Bull cans, for example. It's not that interesting, but it's real. I've used that for over 2 years now. It's a real application.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that balance of doing stuff that looks interesting, but also proving to people, yes, these are used in real jobs, these are used for real applications. And they do make things easier, cheaper, faster. And I talk to large companies who are now using low-end machines, low-end, a couple of $1,000s compared to, say, a multi-$100,000 printer, in their actual production work for jigs, for quick studies for clients. Clients don't want to see a 3D model, they want to see an actual physical item. They can use these machines now, and they are actively using them 24/7, and they couldn't imagine their work now without them, which is fascinating.
Yeah, that is the other trend that we're seeing, is more professional usage. They see that the machines they're not just little toys for hobbyists anymore.
No.
They're really, really powerful machines, the dual extrusion machines, where you can get really fine quality prints for, just like you said, for jigs, for fixtures, and then also for final production, small production, custom things.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Anything that needs to be changed slightly and then made, that's what 3D printing is perfect for. It's not gonna replace injection molding. Let's be completely honest. You're not gonna print something 100,000 times if it's identical. But if you have a design that's slightly different, like orthotics, things like that, that's where its future is.
Yeah.
And that's where it's being used right now.
And one of the things that's unique about your channel is I see a lot more of the design process on your channel than I see on some other channels. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, my training was in industrial design. I studied industrial design at the University of Technology in Sydney. So that was a 4-year course, and from the start we learned SolidWorks, we learned the design process, sketching. I still suck at sketching. So I tend to, before my videos about 3D modeling, I always show a sketch. It's always terrible, but I always sketch still. It's the process. And then, the modeling process and the iteration process. That's what I've always done. And that's the core behind what I want to show. I don't want to show people downloading something and printing it, although there's great value in that. I want to show people how to design their own things, because I find that's more empowering. And I love doing it as well. I wouldn't be doing a YouTube channel if I didn't enjoy it. Part of the projects I do it because I would be doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. I just happen to be able to do it and share it with the world through YouTube.
Yeah, it's great. Exactly. You're doing great work. And I think it is, you mentioned the word empowering, and I think that that's exactly what's happening with especially young people, and people who maybe wouldn't think of themselves as really technical people, when they're seeing these videos and they're seeing that somebody is actually doing this, and while it's not easy, it's doable, it's attainable. You can make these custom things, and then it inspires them to get their own ideas.
Absolutely. One of my keen followers on the channel is a quadriplegic, and he's fascinated with 3D printing, and he has a 3D printer, and it's fantastic. This technology allows him to actually create stuff. Yeah. It's awesome.
That's really great. So what's the future for your channel? What's next?
So basically, the idea behind Maker's Muse is I never called it 3D printing something, because it's about these additive and, I guess, next generation processes to create things. So as we've seen, FDM, 2017 I predicted that resin printers are becoming more popular. We're absolutely seeing that. There's more resin printers. They're going to keep evolving, keep changing. So the idea behind the channel is to keep, I guess, on that next level, try the bleeding edge stuff before other people want to invest in it, because it's going to have problems. It's going to need a big steep learning curve. I want to try to make that easier so I can inform people what's the best choice for your application, what you can do to not spend $10,000 on something that doesn't suit what you want. I want to make sure they choose something that they're going to be really happy with.
Yeah.
And continue doing reviews and continue doing processes and tutorials and projects on what's the latest, greatest thing, and failing as well, because I'm going to try something and it might not work, but I'm happy to do that because I'm in this position where I can, I guess, share my failures with everyone else so they don't have to replicate them on their own.
Yeah.
I love doing it. I love doing videos where things fall apart and fail horribly.
It is useful.
And breaking things as well, testing things to the edge, torture tests, so other people can learn from that.
Yeah, and a lot of your torture test designs have become kind of very popular. People really use them to help them with their 3D printing.
Absolutely, like the lattice cube torture test I designed last year, that was purely, I never expected it to be that popular. I did it for myself initially. I just wanted to see what my machines could do. And then obviously other people saw that and I thought, oh, yeah, I'll take the challenge, I can outdo this. And yeah, it just propagated out from there. And it was interesting because I was charging for that file. But yeah, that supports what I can do full time.
Sure.
But also, it's kind of done because if you can't pay for it, maybe learn a bit of CAD and try modeling it, which people did. So Thingiverse designs popped up, and then someone made a customizable Thingiverse one where they could do all these different, how many lattice sides you want. And
wow.
They wrote it in OpenSCAD. And that's totally cool. That's the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. They're really making an impact on the community. It's kind of how the RepRap community started. It was like somebody made a printer and then everybody else tried to make it better.
Exactly.
And that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, it's open source. Anybody can remix it. Anybody can put their own stamp on it and make it better, and then reintroduce it to the community so that someone else can then go and make it better.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm all about. I'm not going to try to put copyrights and protections on what I'm doing. I might charge for something, but I'm never going to do it in a way to try to stifle the community. I want to do it to empower the community.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you so much. It's Angus from Maker's Muse on YouTube. Do subscribe if you are not already subscribed. We will have the link below from this video. So great to talk to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. I'm Mara from MatterHackers, and for all your 3D printing needs, MatterHackers.com. Thanks.
Happy printing.
Thank you for watching. If you liked that, subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all the latest videos. And don't forget, go to MatterHackers.com to shop for everything 3D printing.